Hello, everybody. So, welcome to this bite-sized biology section on Protista, which is one of the microorganisms that you need to study. So, this section doesn't come up very often in biology, as you might know from looking back at past papers. And when it does come up, their questions are fairly similar. So, I've broken it down to these four sections here. So, section one, you could theoretically be asked to draw a label diagram of a Protista cell. Now, I don't think you've actually been asked before to draw one, but you have been asked to label one. Um, Secondly, you're asked to describe somewhat in detail there the contractile vacuole, how it works. Again, this hasn't really been asked so much in past paper questions, but then there hasn't been a whole pile of these questions. But judging from the syllabus, you could still be asked these. So, part 3 and 4 are to state the type of nutrition and the cellular details, and the fourth one then to link to osmosis, probably the one that comes up most frequently. So, starting off, 2010 was kind of a neat one that encompassed a lot of these. That's what I was looking for. So, part A, name the parts A, B, and C. So, A over here is the false feet, also known as the pseudopods. I think I'm pronouncing that right. So, the pseudopods or the false feet. You could actually say either. The marking scheme allows for both. B, the contractile vacuole. Now, this is really important because what makes amoeba so different to other organisms is that they have something called a contractile vacuole, not a normal vacuole. Okay, so that's kind of separate. So please don't forget to use the word contractile when you're talking about the vacuole here. Let's see where the food vacuoles there. Some people might have said fat droplets, but for the marking scheme for back then, and again, it's going back over 10 years now, um, they were looking for food vacuoles. I'd say they'd be a bit more generous these days if it came up again. Um, okay, B. So, to what kingdom does amoeba belong to? Well, this is all under Protista, so obviously Protista is our answer here. C. Is the cell of amoeba prokaryotic or eukaryotic? Now, guys, I can't stress this enough. Okay, nearly every organism out there is going to be eukaryotic, except for Monera, also known as bacteria. They are the only prokaryotic organisms on Leaves-Spigot course that you need to be worried about. Okay, so that's so important there. Okay, so eukaryotic, obviously, for this guy over here, give a reason. Now, sometimes you're asked to give two reasons, and to be honest, most of us will just learn off this one sentence, and that will encompass both reasons that they have a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. So both a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. Give a function for A. We say A was the pseudopods over here, also known as the false feet. They're used for movement. Sometimes they could be used to engulf their prey as well. Both were acceptable in the marking scheme. Movement obviously is the easier answer to go with. Finally, give one function of B in amoeba. So B, the contractile vacuole, which is over here. The only function you need to say for us is osmoregulation. I don't really know what other functions you could be learning off for this, to be honest. So osmoregulation is the key one there. Okay. And then you're to suggest one reason why B is more active in freshwater amoeba than it is in marine amoeba. So marine meaning, seawater, so it's going to be salty and so forth. Okay, well, all you have to do there was refer to it's more active that water must be entering the cell quite frequently, and almost definitely it's going to be due to osmosis. Okay, so for freshwater, the if we were to go back to our definition of osmosis in the first place before we move on to that, osmosis is the movement of water from a high water concentration to a low water concentration across a semi-permeable membrane. So obviously this is our membrane over here, and it's going to be semi-permeable. So if it was fresh water, which would be out here, that must mean inside here must have a higher sugar, so high sugar or salt, and therefore if that's high sugar and salt, it must have low water. And likewise, it's going to be opposites over here. Fresh water will obviously be high water. So osmosis is the movement of water particles from a region of high water concentration to a region of low water concentration across a semi-permeable membrane, which is over here. So actually going to have to happen there is, because amoeba is unicellular, meaning the whole organism is a simple one cell. If one cell bursts, it dies. And we know when water enters a cell, okay, if they don't have a cell wall, they're going to burst. So amoeba have a contractile vacuole to protect themselves. The contractile vacuole comes along, it sucks up all the water that's entered from the outside here, and it brings it to the cell membrane and it expels it out. Okay, you don't actually need to know how that happens. So it's more active in fresh water than it is in seawater, due to osmosis occurring more regularly. And again, because it's unicellular, it needs to look after the single cell as much as it can. So the last part here was just stuff that came up from other minor questions that's come up in the past. Amoeba, we said it's unicellular, I was discussing that. You've never been asked before on it about amoeba specifically, but mitosis, when it does occur for amoeba, it's for reproduction. Okay, any unicellular cells that undergo mitosis is reproduction. If it was multicellular, which we are, and a lot of organisms are, including microorganisms, mitosis is for growth and repair. But for unicellular organisms, mitosis is strictly for reproduction. Eukaryotic, we said that already, and why that's the case, because it contains, a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. And it's heterotrophic. So that's the type of nutrition that we're dealing with here. Heterotrophic means the organism cannot make its own food, cannot produce its own food. Okay? Organisms such as plants and some monera can produce their own food by photosynthesis due to chloroplasts, or by chemosynthesis for some monera. So heterotrophic cannot make its own food. That's a definition for it there. So just going back to it here, again, it hasn't come up that often, and obviously, if it came up a year fairly close to what you're studying to it now, for instance, it's 2021 now, if it came up in 2020, would it be likely to come up in 2021? Unlikely. It's not like fungi or monera, which come up quite regularly, almost every second year, if not every year. So it's only a small section, but it is one worth knowing. Okay, that's all now for Protista.